Tomorrow in our Saturday night football game, D'Eriq King leading the number 17 Miami Hurricanes into Louisville to take on the number 18 Cardinals. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on ABC and the ESPN app. And then the very next day, it is another Sunday, and that means another stacked card of games. One marquee matchup pits Lamar Jackson and the Ravens against Deshaun Watson and the Texans. Baltimore coming off a huge beatdown over the Browns, while the Texans still in search of their first win, being tasked with the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs in week number 1. Stephen A., who wins the game between the Ravens and the Texans?
Believe it or not, I'm going to pick the Houston Texans in an upset here. I don't think anybody's going 16-0. Listen, Deshaun Watson and those boys went up against the Kansas City Chiefs. They ended up losing that game. We understand how porous they looked. I don't like the fact that DeAndre Hopkins is gone. It doesn't give me a reason to feel but so much faith in the Houston Texans. But do I believe that Deshaun Watson going up against Lamar Jackson has got a little something in him to create some opportunities for himself and his team to potentially pull out a win? Yeah, I do. I'm just going to go with the upset. It's just the feeling that I have. I'm going to leave the astute football analysis to Ryan Clark. All I'm saying is that Baltimore's got to lose a few games this season. Why not one of those? I think they're going to lose a game this year to Pittsburgh, at least one. I could see them losing this game. I could see them going about 12-4 this season. But one of these 4 losses, if you got to beat anybody, why can't it be to Deshaun Watson? I'm just going to go with that for this moment in time right now and pick the Texans with an upset. Just have a gut. I have nothing else to give on that matter for this particular situation, this particular game.
Under normal circumstances, like had they not made that stupid trade, I might agree with you. You know, but home field ain't what it was. We're in a pandemic. It's not the same thing. Like playing at home is not the same advantage it would be normally. That's one. And two, Cooks can play, but DeAndre Hopkins is something special, and he ain't there anymore. And you're asking Deshaun Watson to make lemonade, if not out of lemons, then something close to it. And that's one thing. You know what? I think Deshaun Watson will lead an offense that will score on this Ravens defense. But then you have the flip side. How are they going to stop that Ravens offense? That Texans defense is nothing to write home about, and J.J. Watt ain't what he once was. And at any rate, they just got lit up. And they're facing another offense, which when they're clicking looks unstoppable. And I know, look, the Browns, no preseason, all those kind of things, but the Ravens will win this game.
Listen, I have a problem with everybody on this show. First, Charlie says this is a marquee matchup, which it's not. Then Stephen A. just says they have to lose. Baltimore has to lose four games. Why not this game? And then Max totally gives lemons a bad rap by comparing them to the Houston Texans. Lemons are sometimes good. If you do the right things with them, lemonade can be special. They even add to club soda when you go out and get something to eat. The Houston Texans are not lemons. There's something way far from that you can do nothing good with. And to think that this is even going to be a game is crazy, because here's what happened. Deshaun Watson set up perfectly. He gets his big deal, and he's playing against the last 2 MVP winners, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. I think he is in the conversation with those guys as quarterbacks of the future. Here's the problem. The Kansas City Chiefs, we're going to do everything we possibly can to give Patrick Mahomes all the weapons that he could possibly use to be the best he could ever be and be worth this contract. Lamar Jackson, we're going to give him everything he could possibly need, everything he could possibly use to be the best that he could possibly be, take us to a Super Bowl, and make him the highest paid player in the league. Deshaun Watson, we're going to give away your best player. That's what happened. That's the difference between the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Houston Texans. All 3 of those teams have great quarterbacks. One of those teams doesn't have a GM that's building around his great quarterback, and that's the Houston Texans. That's what we'll see this week. The secondary of the Baltimore Ravens with 2 Pro Bowl corners, great at the safety position, building up front, going out and get Calais Campbell up front. It's going to be hard to move the ball. And what was the issue for the Houston Texan defense against the Kansas City Chiefs? It wasn't Patrick Mahomes in that passing game. It was Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the run game. What team runs the ball better than the Baltimore Ravens? I'm going to answer it for Stephen A. since he had on the Atlanta Falcons jersey today, and he may not know what winning looks like. It's the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are going to run the ball down the Houston Texans' throat and then stop them defensively and force Deshaun Watson to force throws into tough coverages because he's not being protected and none of those wide receivers can get open, and because the best wide receiver in Houston Texans history, one of the best wide receivers of this era, had 14 catches and a touchdown for his new team when he should still be playing for the team that drafted him.
Well, first of all, let's say this. You know, we're in no position to disagree with you based on last year's contest alone. Baltimore romped them 41-7. They compiled 491 yards of offense, 263 on the ground. Lamar Jackson threw for about 4 touchdowns. They just blitzed the Houston Texans, and that's when DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson were on the team together. So I definitely get where you're coming from. My only retort, my only comeback is this. It's 2 things. Number 1, any given Sunday. And number 2, and more importantly, Ryan Clark doesn't have a perfect record with predictions. I've seen you come out here before and you made predictions and you were not 100% correct. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. Your football analysis cannot be disputed. I am not trying to dispute your football analysis. All I'm trying to say is I have seen you on the air be just as vehement, just as emphatic with astute, pinpoint football analysis, only to have to come back on the air and go like this.
Stephen A.
Damn,
listen.
I didn't know.
Hey,
you see, it has happened.
No, listen. The games have to be played. I understand that. And listen, I'm not going to come back with the Max Kellerman, Kawhi Leonard oops if this happens. But what I'm telling you is
Thank
the
God.
Baltimore Ravens
or
are
an economist. Don't do that.
They're by far the better team, and they're going to win this game. And you see 4 losses on this schedule, it's going to be hard to find 4 teams that come out and play better than the Baltimore Ravens for 3 hours. And the Houston Texans will not be the first.
Yeah, but I disagree about the offense. I think Deshaun Watson can rise to a challenge and score some points. It's the defense, the Texans' defense against the Baltimore offense, and the fact that Texans really don't have a home field right now. But otherwise, if they still had – look, if was a fifth, but if they still had DeAndre Hopkins and there wasn't a pandemic, this is a kind of pick-em game. Unfortunately, those things are
They get beat by 10 points.
How many?
Well, Stephen A., you mentioned the meeting between these 2 teams last season. You said 41-7. Yeah. That was 34 points that the Ravens outscored the Texans. That was Deshaun Watson's biggest loss of his career. He also was sacked 6 times during that game. So the Texans better give a little better protection
7 times, I think.
This time around.
Yeah.
6-7 times. I think one of those was on the backup quarterback. So I think it was 6 on Deshaun Watson. But
you're probably right.
Be wrong. All right, Ryan, you are coming back to join us in just a bit, and thank goodness you are, because I am ready for you to bring more of that heat. And all right, just like Stephen A. is betting against the Ravens, our next segment we're going to be talking about the Western Conference Finals, and this time one of our guys is betting against LeBron. Perk, we're joining us for that debate coming up next.